Greetings, my fellow Fright Fiends. It's your buddy Boogeyman Ben here for a new episode of Boogeyman Ben's Horror Zone. And today's video is one that I've been wanting to do since the beginning of the year. And it's actually one I wanted to do last year but didn't have an opportunity to. But this is going to be talking about my favorite horror movie podcasts. There's 4 podcasts total that I listen to on a weekly basis. I've been listening to one of the podcasts for going on 5 years, which is crazy. These are just some podcasts that I think it would, people that are in the horror community that come to my channel and like suggestions that I offer would be really interested to check out. And I'll put links down below to all of them where you can find them. They're on iTunes, all of them. The first podcast I want to mention in my top 4 is Shockwaves. Now, Shockwaves is run by... you have Rob Galuzzo, who I've been friends with probably since starting my channel. He directed the movie The Psycho Legacy, which was a documentary that he did on the Psycho franchise. And it's a fantastic documentary. I completely recommend it 1000%. But him and Rebecca McKendry and Elric Kane and Ryan Turek do the Shockwaves podcast. Now, Ryan, I don't believe, is on every one of them, but Elric, Rebecca, and Rob are on all of them. And they do a fantastic job. The thing that I really like about their podcast, I love how it starts where they each talk about new movies that they've seen, and they give their they give their own critiques on said movies and talk about what they've seen, what they think is good. I love when people that run the podcast offer suggestions for horror movies that are good, that people should check out, maybe ones that maybe you weren't particularly aware of at the time. I've taken them up on the suggestions they've offered, and I found some good flicks out of them. Also, another thing they started doing is talking about music, like lots of good stuff that's on vinyl. They'll even play samples of it on the podcast, which is really nice. I can't say enough great things about Shockwaves. I love listening to them. People that have been working in the industry and very knowledgeable about horror and the horror culture, and really offer some great insight into everyone's favorite genres. The next podcast I want to talk about is 3 Guys That Horror. It's run by 3 gentlemen that I know from YouTube. I got to know these guys all through their YouTube channels. So you have Eric, who does Horror Man Cave. He doesn't do a lot of videos anymore. Like every so often he'll do them, but he's very active on Instagram, and he's an awesome guy. He's a very talented artist. You have Todd from Todd All Things Horror, who's also just an awesome guy, very talented. He's really knowledgeable about horror movies in general. And then you have Joe, who runs Joe's House of Horror. He also runs the Joe's House of Horror Facebook group, which is a huge success. And Joe is just an awesome guy, very personable, and he's someone that I've known for several years now. All 3 guys are just fantastic, and they have a lot of fun on the podcast. They do a lot of, talking about new movies that they've seen in the theater. Also, recently they interviewed horror scream queen and legend Linnea Quigley, which was a great interview, and just fantastic they were able to get an interview with her. I was shocked, and it was very well done. And I love listening to their thoughts on current horror movies, older horror movies, and they just have a lot of fun with it, and it's a great listen. So yeah, 3 Guys At Horror, definitely recommend that podcast. The next one I want to talk about is The Movie Crypt. Now, The Movie Crypt is the one that I've been listening to since 2013 when it first started. Huge fan of Adam Green, huge fan of Joe Lynch. They have some terrific episodes. It's something that I really wish would have been around when I was in film school, because it really offers some tremendous insight into the industry, because you have 2 independent directors that, have done movies, but it also just talks about how the Hollywood system works. How hard it is to make it in Hollywood. They've had guests come on to talk about that. They've had directors come on. They've had, directors that have had their movies bit torrented, just how much it affects the bottom line, and how they're not making any money off movies anymore because of that going on in the industry. So there's some terrific insight, and the amount of guests they've had on the show, from John Landis to Kane Hodder to Derek Mears to Daniel Harris. And the thing that's great is that they have a wide breadth of who they bring on the podcast. It's not just the actors. They'll bring on musicians. They'll bring on editors, producers. It's so interesting to listen to, different takes on things that maybe you weren't aware of in terms of how the industry works, and that's on the music side and the movie side. I cannot say enough great things about The Movie Crypt. Fantastic. Adam and Joe are just fantastic, and they've had so many great guests, and every week they continue to blow me away with the content that they're putting out. And the last horror podcast I want to talk to is a relatively new one that I've gotten into, Forever Midnight, which is Jeff, Josh, and Brian. First found out about these guys last year at the Stockton Sinister Creature Con. I ended up going to their table and talking to them a little bit. You know, they liked the shirt that I was wearing. I was wearing my Hatchet shirt. So we started talking about, you know, Hatchet and Friday the 13th, and I ended up buying a few things from them. And then I ran into Brian at the last Sinister Creature Con that I went to, and that was in October of last year, and bought a couple more things from them. And then I really started getting into the podcast. I absolutely love listening to these guys talk about horror movies, and they rip on certain movies and they praise certain movies. But the thing that brings it home for me is that they talk like I talked with my friends. And so I really just get into listening to them back and forth. They're hilarious to listen to. They offer some tremendous insight into, you know, films and filmmaking, but they also have a lot of fun with it. When they get going and it just gets hilarious, I cannot stop laughing. But they also have they talk about some great movies. Again, what I said about the Shockwaves podcast, they bring up, you know, certain movies that I might not have been aware of that, you know, like really make it, you know, something that I want to seek out and check out. They're around my age, so I really relate to them, and I just really have a lot of fun listening to them. But again, on top of all of the awesome content they put out, they also have had some tremendous guests on their podcast, like Barbara Crampton. They've spoken with David Naughton. They've talked to Tom Atkins. Miko Hughes, who played Gage in Pet Sematary, is one of my favorite interviews of a genre celebrity that I've ever heard. So Forever Midnight is fantastic. I love the content they're putting out. It's a lot of fun. These guys are passionate about horror. They love the genre, and they're just putting out some tremendous content. So that's going to be it. That is talking about my 4 favorite horror movie podcasts. So yeah, check them out. Let me know what you guys think. If you're already listening to these podcasts or subscribed to them, let me know which one's your favorite, which one you've been listening to for a long time now. And I want to thank everyone for taking the time to watch this video. And please stay tuned for some more cool content I'll have coming real soon. Take it easy. Stay scared as always. Peace. There's a movement going on right now on YouTube. It's called Save HorrorTube. YouTubers that are in danger of losing their monetization capabilities and their partnership rights as of February 20th of this year, based on the fact that they don't have 1,000 subscribers or more, or that there hasn't been 4,000 hours watched of the video content that they're putting out. So please check out the link down below, Save HorrorTube. It's a playlist of all of the YouTubers that are in danger of losing these rights in the next few weeks. Please support them, put the videos on a loop, subscribe to their channels, comment on their channels, watch them as much as you can just to help support us. As horror YouTubers, we all need to stick together in the community, and I want to thank everyone for taking the time to do so. And thanks so much for watching.